Welcome to the Caddo Convos, the podcast that explores the vibrant community of businesses thriving in Caddo Office Reimagined. We're here to shine a light on the incredible entrepreneurs and professionals who make the most of our private offices, co-working spaces, and day office rentals in the Dallas-Fort Worth suburbs. Join us as we share their stories, celebrate their successes, and dive into the benefits of working in a space that's close to home but offers so much more than working from home. Let's get started with today's conversation. So joining me today on the Caddo Convos podcast is Ray Myers with EOS. And tell me, what is EOS? That's the first question we want to know.
All right. EOS is not the Greek goddess of dawn.
Oh, that's too bad.
No. It's the Entrepreneurial Operating System, and it's a set of simple, proven, practical tools that are designed to help business owners get more of what they want from their businesses. Don't let the OS fool you. I've had a lot of people, I'll talk to them for an hour, and they'll say, well, and what's the software?
Right.
It's like, no, this is human-led tools. It's training, facilitation, and coaching for business owners and their leadership teams who are frustrated. They feel like they've hit the ceiling, and I am walking, talking proof that it works among about 30,000 other companies. So
wonderful. How long have you been doing? How did you get started with EOS? Let's start there.
I got started with EOS. So I've been an entrepreneur all my life. I've owned 9 different businesses.
Fantastic.
And some of them were amazing successes, and some were total train wrecks.
Sure.
But you learn a lot more from the train wrecks than you do from the successes. In my last business, one of my investors brought me a copy of the book Rocket Fuel. I just gave one to you as a gift.
I got a copy.
And whenever I read it, it's like, whoa, where has this been all my life? Why have I been reinventing the wheel every time I start a new business? Here's a pattern and a process that I don't have to invent. It's a set of simple, practical tools that are designed to work together. And so it was my last software company.
Yeah.
And that company at the time when I got that book, we were bleeding cash. We were losing money, about $150,000 a month. We had a shell-shocked operations team, and within shortcut 15 months into the future, after 15 months of just running on EOS, we were cash flow positive. Downsized the operations team by about 60% and doubled its throughput.
Yeah, wow.
And primed for a merger, which closed last Friday.
Oh,
sorry,
yes.
actually Friday before last now. So an absolutely amazing success story. So about halfway through that, working through the EOS process, I said, this is what I want to do when I retire.
Yeah.
And I retired from that company officially a week and a day ago, 8 days ago.
Congratulations. That's so wonderful.
Which lets me do full-time EOS now. So my goal is to help other people not make the same mistakes that I did. I like to say, because it's true, I used to say back, whenever I was in the heat of being an entrepreneur, the good thing about being an entrepreneur is you get to choose which 23 hours of the day you work.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
And that's not a healthy way to live your life.
No.
So I love to give business owners control of their business. Again, let them go on vacation and not check their phones.
Yeah.
Let them spend more time with their families. Let them, realize they're making a huge difference, and realize that with the right system in place, you can kind of take an act of faith, let go of the vine, and trust that your business will continue to run well. I told my business partner years ago when we sold our very first business together, I said, we've got to get past the arrogance that this place would fall apart without us, so we can get on to the ultimate arrogance, which is it'll do just fine without us because we built something that can last.
Yeah.
And when you're in there fighting the dragons day in, day out, you're dealing with operations, you're moving your facility, you're dealing with employees and customers, and it's easy to forget.
Yeah.
It's easy to forget that you built this business not for it to ruin your life, but for it to give you something in return, to give you the freedom that you want and the money that you want and the success and the growth and the ability to share that with other people. That's EOS that's not a nutshell, but it's smallish.
Yeah,
so.
In a digestible bit.
Yeah.
But what it must feel like to sit in your chair and know that, one, you said the trials, the 23 hours a day and all of that, you've done all that, but now to be on the other side. And that's what I'm a business owner like yourself. It's like, I want to get to that other side, but it's the entrepreneurial spirit almost prevents me because like the area, that's a really great way you put it. The arrogance of this won't run without me, overcoming that. So let's talk about how you help people. Maybe tell me a story about one of your customers overcoming that first arrogance, because we can't get to that second one,
right,
unless we overcome the first.
Right. And I don't like to name customers,
of course not.
But I'll tell you a story about a great one. Well, I've got my own story first of all.
Of course, yes.
And in that one, I'll name names on. But I've got a customer. They run a chain of restaurants.
God, it's a difficult business.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
7 locations.
Yeah.
And I was talking to the owner the very first time. And I said, tell me, what is it that you want out of your business that you're not getting? And he says, that's easy. He says, I've got the money and the location and everything in place to open an 8th location, but I'm terrified to do that. I said, why are you terrified? He says, because at any given moment, I don't know what's going on in 6 of the restaurants. I can only be in one place at one time.
Yes.
And so the process of fixing that, and I've got a number of customers that their goal is not necessarily to franchise, but to be franchisable. So to the point that there is a business asset outside of themselves.
Yep.
And the high-end gem that I was talking about is another great example of that. Maybe they want another location. Maybe they'd like to be able to rubber stamp it. They need to figure that out over time. It starts with clarifying your vision, because every entrepreneur out there has all this stuff going on in their heads. And the great visionary ones have, 200 great ideas at once. And without the ability to isolate the ones that are really going to move the needle, to drive that forward, they're going to continue to drift. They're kind of rudderless.
Yeah.
And full of energy, though.
Oh, sure. like a tornado, that needs to pick a course. You know? Yeah.
That's
pick a direction already.
Yeah, I have had a few business leaders that I've worked with described as tornadoes.
Yeah, yeah.
They're full of energy, and they tend to leave a little trail of
leave
destruction
a
in their
mess.
path.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
But and most of the people who do that, they're not doing it intentionally. They don't want to sabotage their own business. They don't even realize that they're doing it. And they need the ability to develop a culture around them, surrounded by people that they trust, who operate in the interest of the greater good of the business, and a culture of openness and honesty where anybody can say, hey, boss, you're doing that thing again.
Yeah.
You asked me to tell you.
Right.
You asked me to point it out. I'm doing what you said. Please don't kill me.
Yep.
And usually they don't.
Right. We talked about this. Yeah.
Yeah. It's but the boss doesn't realize that, and the employee doesn't realize that until you create that kind of shared vision and that kind of team health. That's and so you asked how do I do it? I'll get a little bit more specific.
The how of EOS is the big question for me. Yeah.
It's funny. We always like to say there's no theory here. We don't operate on theory. Everything that we do is tested, and it's proven, and it works in the right kinds of companies. We work with owner-led companies that have between 10 and 250 employees. Ideally for profit, at least not averse to making money.
Right.
We work with not-for-profits, but usually it doesn't work as well if you're on a big grant and your goal is just to spend all of the money.
Right, right.
So it needs to be operated like a business. So I work with the owners and with their leadership teams. There are a lot of executive coaching programs out there that just work with the owner. And it's like, you're only part of this problem and you're only part of the solution. I want to work with the whole leadership team, with everybody that is instrumental to making your business move forward. I want to get all of those people on the same page first.
The stakeholders in the business.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. Because everybody has a different vision in their head. Where are we going to be in 3 years? When I start working with most teams, I ask that question. If it's a team of 6, I get 6 different answers. So first, we've got to spend a little bit of time and make sure that all of us agree on where are we going to be in 10 years? Where are we going to be in 6 years? We have to agree on what does it mean to be a good person here? What are our core values? What are the aspects of personalities that we're going to use to hire, to fire, to reward, to recognize, to retain, and make sure that everybody knows that.
Yeah.
A core focus. What is it that if we apply all of our energy in this little spot right here, we can make a difference? But we need to agree on what that spot is. We're all shooting at different areas.
Yeah. Yeah.
So typically, not typically, always, the way that I work, I'm working with adults.
Yeah.
And adults don't learn like children do. Children learn very well. You study, you prepare for the test, you take the test, you make a good grade, you forget it all. No, I'm just kidding. Ideally, you remember and accumulate some of that over time.
Best case scenario.
But grown-ups, we're busy,
Yeah.
we're distracted, we're unfocused by nature. And so I work on a meeting cadence. I bring the teams away from the office. People ask me, it's like, why do we go away from the office and why do we work with somebody from outside the office? And I said, the fact that I'm not in your office means that I am not nose dead to the smells that are there. I can smell the problems. I can see the team dysfunction, but we've got to get you away from working in the business so we can spend a little bit of quality time working on the business. It's on a fixed cadence.
Right.
We begin by making sure that you understand the tools that we're working with and you understand fundamental concepts. We introduce some language. We create some rudimentary scorecards. We create some rudimentary 90-day goals. Why rudimentary? Because we're grown-ups.
Yeah.
We're not going to get an A+ on the first try. And through spaced repetition, through a model that's proven over and over again, it works with companies. I'll teach you a bunch of tools. I'll let you go back to your business for 30 days. You'll do some of it right. You'll do some of it wrong. That's okay. That's how we learn. We come back 30 days later. We debug everything that's working and not working. And then we start to craft the vision. And it takes a while because visions are not invented. You don't make them up.
Right.
They're discovered.
Yeah.
We've got to pull them out of the team. And it's got to be that visionary leader, that person who's got all of those great ideas, completely in alignment with the people who are going to do the work. If there's a misalignment between those two, then you're never going to get to where you want to go. Steve Jobs was said to have a reality distortion field. That was his employees gave him that name because he would come in and say, I just need you to make 1 + 1 = 7.
Yeah.
I don't care if you say it's against the laws of math and physics, make it happen.
Yeah. Find a way. Hammer's fist.
Yeah. The nice thing is, Steve Jobs did create a lot of great things, refined a lot of great things, but he had a great team around him. And most of the time, that's something you find.
Yep.
You have a visionary. You have a Walt Disney out there who said he would have bankrupted the company within the first year if it weren't for his brother.
Yeah.
Lots of examples. Steve Jobs had Steve Wozniak around. Steve Jobs dreamed up the ideas, and Wozniak made them into something real.
Yep.
So that's a dynamic duo. Whenever you can get those two together, whenever they understand their lanes, whenever they get along, there's healthy tension.
Yep.
And occasionally they fight, but they do it in private.
Yeah.
And they walk out on the same page with the same agreement. Don't fight in front of the kids. And what I just described is the rocket fuel formula in the book that you're about to read. So
Great. Yeah, that's my weekend reading. Thank you for that. So Ray, earlier I heard you say the phrase target market. What's your definition? Elaborate for us.
Sure. As I mentioned earlier, EOS works very best whenever it's entrepreneur-led organizations that are between 10 and 100 employees, but there's more to it than that.
Yeah.
It works the very best whenever you have a leader who is open and honest and vulnerable and honestly more afraid of the status quo than they are of change. If you've got a leader that's just completely full of themselves and they think they have all of the answers, it's not as useful. There's not a lot that's able to help people like that.
Yeah,
but anybody that's willing to say, it's like, no, I feel stuck. And I'm willing to ask for help, and I would like to rely more on the people around me. I'm willing to get my ego out of the way. It's like we can make a huge difference with that. A lot of the reasoning in that I mentioned earlier lots of visionaries don't realize that they're causing the problems that they are. They don't realize they're sabotaging their own businesses, and lots of times you'll have it's like the Disney villain, the evil villain with 1,000 incompetent sidekicks.
Yeah, yep.
There are reasons that you can get into that situation. Sometimes it's too much ego.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just accidental. Sometimes it's the followers on. But you got to surround yourself by people who are really good at their jobs. They're encoded at the DNA level to be able to do their job. They want it, so they spend time on the weekends reading. Why? Not because you told them to, but because they enjoy it.
Yeah.
And they have the capacity to do it. Because lots of people, it's like, oh, I can get the job done. It just takes me 10 times as long as somebody else who happens to have more skill. They have more capacity. You have to be able to analyze all of your team members that way in order to be able to surround yourself by those kinds of people.
Yeah.
And they also have to be people who align with your core values.
Right. But you have to know those first.
You do.
And be able to communicate them.
And they're discovered.
Yeah.
They are not invented. If you invent words and write them up on the wall, if eye rolls made noises, you'd hear them.
Yes. Audible eye rolls. Yep.
You asked a story about a customer, a great breakthrough. They were working on building core values, and the visionary owner really wanted one of the core values to be hardworking. And it was a beautiful team health moment whenever one of his team members said, "We can't have that as a core value. It's not something that you value personally. You are not hardworking."
Wow.
Yeah. And
Good.
and what was wonderful is that visionary leader said, "Oh, you're absolutely right." He says, "I don't appear to be hardworking." They end up making one of their core values driven, which I like, because the person's very definitely driven,
right?
But there's a difference,
Yeah.
And you have to get those out. And I apologize, I've drifted off the topic of your question, but
no, we're talking because mainly it's understanding people, meeting them where they are to begin the process. And understanding that hard working was not. That's not a core. So, okay, driven makes much more sense. And that beginning discovery that is part, what do you call it, the very beginning assessment? Do you have a phrase for that?
It's called Focus Day.
Focus Day, great. And that's day one.
Focus Day is day one. I spend a couple of days on vision building. And after that, we've got all of the primary tools into the hands of the leadership team. Then comes the fun part. We have to roll it out to the rest of the organization. And sometimes that only takes a few quarters. Sometimes our average is about 2 years.
Okay, that's great.
After 2 years, a lot of companies are able to run EOS on their own without any outside help. Some like the security blanket, and they'll stick with me forever.
Yeah.
I've got a friend who's an EOS implementer out of Australia, and he's had a client who's been with him for over 10 years.
Yeah.
And so every time he meets with them, at the top of their issue discussion list is today the day you need to fire me. I am most successful when I'm able to cut you loose.
Yep.
And you go off and do great things. And by the way, please refer other business to me.
Oh, right, yeah. Well, basically, it's freeing you up so you can help other businesses. They've reached that point of execution to where they graduate on to run their business well and not need that anymore. Well, that's terrific. So for people who are thinking about that they need this and they're ready to start that process, how do they reach you?
The easiest way, honestly, if they're Caddo people, which is our primary audience, then I am a social membership here in Maple Shade. My LinkedIn profile is locked and loaded. I have a YouTube channel with a lot of very informative EOS videos, more coming out soon.
Excellent.
And
that's all in the show notes, everybody. Just
there you
scroll
go.
down and Ray's provide all of that.
I'll give you
click
a phone,
on the links.
I'll give you a phone number. I love to talk to people.
Okay,
so.
Great. Yeah, so that's all in the show notes.
Great.
So pick the way you want to reach out to Ray and go from there. Parting thoughts, Ray, for our both the Caddo and the greater audience that will hear this.
My heart has gone out to entrepreneurs since the day I started my first legal business at the age of 14.
Man, I'm over here clapping for it.
Yeah, that was fun. I mean,
Wow.
I was raised in a small town, and there weren't a lot of things to do, and there weren't a lot of barriers either. It's like, if I want to own a business, filed the paperwork, called the state comptroller, and started a business.
Yeah.
And
Bravo.
so my heart's gone out to entrepreneurs my whole life. And I have always loved to make a little bit of extra time whenever I meet somebody who's out there. They're sacrificing the stability of the day job. They're taking out a loan. They're taking out a mortgage on their house, and they're building something. It's like that's the engine that creates jobs in our world, and I can't not want to lean in and say, what can I do to help? Because I have time.
Yeah.
I have experiences. I have things that I've learned by doing them wrong, things that I've learned by doing them right. And if you're an entrepreneur, first of all, thank you. And that's amazing. But whether EOS is a fit for you or not, that's not what I'm after. I'm here to build relationships. I work with a lot of different startups that are way pre-EOS in size. Got all kinds of advice, tools, stuff that's free because you don't have a lot of money when you're
reading
out.
resources. That's you're sharing. So I appreciate
But no, I love to meet people. Love to share. Overblown extrovert.
That's awesome.
And so if you see me around the halls, stop and say hi. Hey, you're the EOS guy. Yeah, that's me.
Awesome.
So,
Well, I really appreciate you coming on the Caddo Convos today, Ray, and just sharing your knowledge, your enthusiasm. I know listeners like me are just like, I think I can do this. I'm an entrepreneur, but I don't know everything. Certainly don't. And you're making a way for us to accept that there's help out there.
Yeah,
So I appreciate you
indeed.
being on the show and sharing.
well,
that.
thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us today on the Caddo Convos podcast. A huge shout out to our incredible network of members for making our community vibrant and supportive. If you're looking to boost your productivity and reduce the isolation of working from home, consider joining us at Caddo Office Reimagine. Our spaces are designed to meet your evolving needs, support remote work, and foster a sense of community that's hard to find at home. Whether you're a startup aiming for growth, a freelancer seeking a professional setting, or a company looking to optimize resources, Caddo offers a perfect blend of flexibility and innovation. By joining us, you'll be a part of a dynamic business ecosystem that helps you thrive. For more information, visit caddooffices.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Caddo Convos.